Hey y'all, welcome back to the Dancing Italian Urban Farm. Today, we're planning August. There are certain times of year that feel as though they exist somewhere between two worlds. August has always felt like one of those months to me. It's still summer, the garden is overflowing, the evenings are warm, the days are long. And yet, if you pay close enough attention, you can feel something beginning to shift. The mornings become a little cooler. The sunlight changes. The garden begins moving from growth into harvest. The first hints of autumn begin whispering before the season has officially arrived. August is a threshold, a border, a doorway between what has been and what is beginning. And I think there is something deeply magical about these transitional spaces. Today, as I set up my August planner, I want to approach this month a little differently. Rather than rushing ahead into the next season, I want to honor this moment between. The place where summer is still alive, but change is already arriving. Because some of the most meaningful parts of life happen in the in-between spaces. The word liminal comes from the Latin word limen, meaning threshold. A liminal space is a place of transition, a doorway, a bridge, a border, a shoreline where land meets water. It is neither one place nor another. And throughout history, humans have always recognized these moments as powerful. Birthdays, the time between the year before and the year next. New Year's, again, the time between last year and the new one. Sunrise and sunset, time between day and night. The changing of seasons. These are all moments when the ordinary world feels a little thinner, a little more open to possibility. August carries this energy beautifully. We are not quite in summer anymore, but we're not fully in autumn either. We are standing between abundance and release, between growth and reflection, between outward energy and the slower inward pull of the coming months. When I plan August, I don't want to simply fill boxes on a calendar. I don't want to just make long to-do lists or schedules. I want to ask, what am I completing? What am I harvesting? What am I preparing to let go of? And what am I making space for? As a ballet teacher, August is also the transition between the previous season and the new season to come. We are wrapping up summer classes and we are heading into our fall semester. This is also apparent in school situations where you are moving from freedom of summer into the new fall semester. New things to be learned, new places to go, new things to see. One of the things I love about seasonal living is that it reminds us we are not meant to stay the same all year long. Nature surely doesn't. The garden definitely doesn't. The trees don't either. Everything moves through cycles. Summer asks us to grow, to explore, to expand. On the other hand, autumn asks us to gather, to reflect, to release. August is the beautiful moment where we get to do both. We can still enjoy the sweetness of summer while beginning to prepare ourselves for a new rhythm. I think there is wisdom in allowing ourselves to exist in that space. We don't always need immediate answers. We don't always need to rush into the next version of ourselves. Sometimes the most magical thing we can do is simply pay attention to where we are now. And August gives us the perfect moment to do that. The perfect time to reflect on where we've been and where we want to go. What do we want to learn? How do we want to build ourselves into a better version of ourselves? For the month of August, I have chosen a theme of a secret fairy garden. Throughout folklore, transitional spaces have often been associated with beings that exist between worlds. And one of the most enduring examples is fairy folklore. Fairies have often been connected with liminal spaces, those in-between spaces, the edge of forests, the space between cultivated gardens and wild nature, streams and springs, twilight, the place between sunshine and shadow, places where the familiar meets the unknown. In many traditions, fairies were not simply tiny magical creatures from children's stories, not the pixie-like little winged creatures that we often think of. Traditionally, they represented the mysterious part of nature, the unseen forces that reminded humans that the world was more alive and more complicated than we understood. The fairy realm was often described as a place where time moved differently. I'm sure you've read stories where people get taken into the fae realm or stumble into the fae realm, and when they come back out, even though they seem to have only been gone for hours, the mortal world has moved on years or decades. This is a reminder that our human desire to rush and categorize everything doesn't always match the rhythms of nature. I love this symbolism because August itself feels a little like a fairy threshold. The garden is abundant, but changing. The days are bright, but beginning to shorten. The season is still here, and yet it's already transforming. It asks us to slow down enough to notice what is shifting. Another creature deeply connected with transformation and liminal spaces is the snake. I know, just hear me out. Across many cultures, snakes have represented renewal because of their ability to shed their skin. They carry the symbolism of leaving behind what no longer fits. Not because the old skin was bad, but because growth requires change. I think there is a beautiful lesson in that. Sometimes we hold onto old versions of ourselves simply because they are familiar. Old routines, old expectations, old identities. But nature reminds us that transformation is not something to fear. The snake does not mourn the skin it leaves behind. It simply continues to grow. We must do the same. We must shed the old in order to grow into the new. And not be afraid of what is to come, even though change can be very scary. August invites us to ask, what am I ready to shed? What patterns no longer serve me? What version of myself am I becoming? This allows us to write it down so the change becomes less scary. The transition between seasons is a perfect time to reflect on the transitions happening within ourselves. As I fill in my August calendar, I want to leave room for both productivity and presence. Because a meaningful life is not only made up of what we accomplish, it is also made up of what we notice. The garden harvest, those last warm evenings outside, the meals shared together, the quiet moments before the busy season begins. Planning helps me protect those moments. It reminds me that my time is valuable and that I want to spend it intentionally. Not perfectly, just intentionally. As I finish preparing my August planner, I want to remember that transition is not something to rush through. There is beauty in the in-between, the space between seasons, the space between who we were and who we are becoming, the space between endings and beginnings. August reminds us that change does not always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it arrives quietly. A cooler morning, a changing garden, a different quality of sunlight, a feeling we can't quite explain. And maybe that is the magic of liminal spaces. They teach us how to pay attention, how to release, how to welcome, how to trust the process of becoming. So, this August, my intention is to move slowly enough to notice the magic, to appreciate what is still here, to prepare for what is coming, and to remember that every season has something beautiful to teach us. Thank you so much for joining me today as I plan my August. I hope that you can sit and reflect as you plan yours. You'll have a wonderful and beautiful day.